Doer Jeans is opening a store right here in Portland later this month, and if you haven't heard of them yet, let me tell you, they make stylish, comfortable clothes that are designed for a full day of living, from commuting to work to hanging out after. And you can try them out for yourselves now, because CityCast Portland listeners get 15% off your first order. Just mention the code CCPDX for your in-store purchase, or you can go online at shopdoer.com/CCPDX. That's shop DUER.com/CCPDX for 15% off your first order. Portland Art Museum's new exhibit, Global Icons Local Spotlight, contemporary art from the collections of Jordan D. Schnitzer, is running now through January 11th. You could see more than 65 works by celebrated artists of the 20th century, including Andy Warhol, Helen Frankenthaler, Ellsworth Kelly, and Robert Rauschenberg. This will all be on view through the opening of PAM's new expanded campus, which is happening on November 20th. Kids 17 and under are always free. Grab your tickets now at portlandartmuseum.org. For a lot of Portlanders, fall means two things: rain and mushrooms. But mushroom foraging isn't just about tromping through the woods and getting lucky. No, there's a whole culture, etiquette, and even kind of intuition behind it. So today on CityCast Portland, we're talking with Norther Emily, founder of Wild Solitude Guiding and a seasoned mushroom forager. We're going to get into the art of mushroom hunting, a few that you can easily identify, and which ones you should absolutely not mess with. It's Tuesday, October 14th. I'm Claudia Meza, and this is what Portland's talking about. So, Norther, I heard that you sprained your ankle while foraging for mushrooms. So how dangerous is this activity? Should we be packing up splints when we go in?
I mean, you should always be prepared in the woods, right?
Yeah.
The concern is just that I got distracted because I wasn't on a mushroom hunt. I was on a 17-mile hike. And I got distracted by the mushrooms because there were so many and they were so beautiful, and I just kept taking pictures. And then I was like, oops, is it almost sunset?
Oh, no.
Also, 0 out of 10 Nesmith Trail in the gorge. They never needed to bring that one back. It is a rocky nightmare, and I do not recommend it.
Boo the Nesmith Trail. Boo it.
Boo.
Well, I know you have a whole philosophy on mushroom foraging and how it's different from foraging plants. Could you share that with us?
Well, mushroom foraging is a little different. So with plants, it's very easy to learn about an entire plant community all at once, or like an ecosystem all at once. And we have more experience with plants day to day because we see them everywhere. But we spend less time looking at mushrooms. They spend less time with above ground parts.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And then in addition to that, there's lots of just random little mushrooms, little brown mushrooms or whatever, that are indistinguishable from each other. And they're clearly not a snack. They're not a thing that you would ever want to eat. And so the thing with mushroom foraging is just that you learn one mushroom at a time. And you get to know that particular mushroom and its co-conspirators and its lookalikes really well. And then you move on to the next one, rather than learning all of the mushrooms that grow in the forest behind your house or whatever.
Right. I've also heard you say that it's more vibes-based. Could you explain what you mean by that? I'm assuming what you mean, but I want to know. I want you to say it out loud. Yeah.
Well, sometimes mushroom hunting really is hunting. Sometimes you are looking for mushrooms and you're not finding them, and you're looking for a long time. Chanterelles kind of look like yellow fallen leaves on the ground, so you're kind of scanning the ground when you're looking for the chanterelles, and there's things that kind of catch your eye that are not the right thing. So how do you go through a forest full of yellow leaves on the ground and find the yellow mushrooms? It's you just kind of go by vibes. You just kind of let the mushrooms lead you.
Okay.
That sounds super weird. I think this is especially true with morels, which are super sneaky and notoriously hard to pick out. It's not morel season right now, but yeah, morels, you can stand there and stare at a patch of them forever and they just blend into the background. And then all of a sudden you'll be like, oh my gosh, they're right in front of my face.
Yeah.
So it's vibes.
I see what you're saying. Well, how do you learn to read mushroom weather? Because you said this is very seasonal, and I'm assuming just for me, fall means mushrooms. But
Yeah.
I know that this is a year-round thing.
I think like for the fall mushrooms though, like for the chanterelles and stuff, this is like the big time right now. There's also lots of mushrooms to pick in the spring. You need wet weather and then it needs to like warm back up a little bit.
Mm.
So like a nice good rain followed by like a little like weather shift is usually what I would consider mushroom weather. And then, of course, like, just pay attention to, like, what other people are doing, like, minding other people's business. Like, are you seeing people foraging for mushrooms on Instagram? Like, are you seeing people parked in weird places on the side of the road in the national forest and wandering with baskets in their hands? That's usually, there's, like, only one kind of activity look like that.
Oh, man. That's so funny. I'm like, what if they're just out for a nice little picnic? We don't know.
They could be.
Freem Family Brewers has opened up a second location in Milwaukee just south of Portland, so you no longer have to make the trek all the way to Hood River just to get to their 20-plus taps of award-winning beer. They've moved into the historic Milwaukee City Hall building right into the old firehouse, and I hear they turned the old fire pole into a fully functioning tap. I would like to see that. Plus, this new location has 3 bars with seasonal cocktails, in addition to all the harder to find Freem beers. My go-to is the Japanese lager, and they're serving practically the same menu as their Hood River location, so you know their food is solid. I recommend anything on the menu that has their house-made beer cheese. It's so delicious. Freem Milwaukee is open daily from 11:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can see their full menu at freembeer.com. That's PFRIEM beer.com.
You've probably heard that downtown Portland has a few more empty storefronts than most of us would like. Have you ever thought up a big idea for a way to help downtown thrive? Well, now's your chance to bring it to life. Pivot Property Management is teaming up with CityCast Portland to launch a design contest, and they're asking for your boldest visions for businesses or community spaces to fill 5 of their downtown spaces. All through October, we want to hear your best ideas. Maybe it's a seasonal pop-up for the holidays, a short-term community hub, or a brand new business ready to make a long-term impact in downtown. From practical solutions to pie-in-the-sky dreams, this is your opportunity to shape the future of our city. Submissions are open through October 19th. You can learn more about the properties and share your idea using the form linked in today's show notes, or head to our website at portland.citycast.fm.
This episode is brought to you by Mubi, a global streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema. On Mubi, you can stream beautiful hand-picked films anytime, anywhere. And right now, you can stream Lurker, a sharp psychological thriller and the directorial debut of the Bear and Beef writer-producer Alex Russell. It follows a 20-something retail clerk who crosses paths with a rising pop star and slowly worms his way into their world. As the line between friend and fan blurs, access and proximity turns into a matter of life and death. You can watch Lurker and so much more exclusively on Mubi, and the best part, you can try it for free for 30 days on us. Just head to mubi.com/citycast25. That's mubi.com/citycast25. So for a newbie, I know it's important to narrow the scope of what you're looking for, like when you start foraging edible mushrooms, mainly for safety and ease of identification, kind of how you stated earlier that you were like, you focus on one and you grow from there. So with your help, we've narrowed down 3 types of mushrooms that people could find this time of year, and you're going to tell us the basics of how to find them. Immediately, one that I think a lot of people already know and that you've already mentioned are chanterelles. Where do you find them? How do you find them? And how do you not accidentally pick their deadly look-alike, the false chanterelle?
Yeah, so chanterelles are really like a pretty distinctive mushroom, and most people have had them before. They have them in the grocery store this time of year. So if you you can take advantage of that opportunity to go look at those mushrooms
Mhm.
and like look at their characteristics. Also, farmers market, like a lot of times there'll be like a mushroom table there or whatever. You can always go look and see like what people are pulling. But, chanterelles are super easy. I think they're also, like, pretty choice. So it's like, it's something that's easy to work with. People have an idea of what they wanna do with their chanterelles. It's not complicated to prepare them. They have kind of like, like a little cuppy, blobby kind of a shape. They don't usually get very big. They can be quite small, like a button, or they can be, like, the size of your hand. The main thing that you wanna look for is that they have these, like, ridges, right?
Mhm.
They don't have true gills, and they don't have there's no distinction between the stem of the chanterelle and the cap. It's, like, all one piece, and the little, like, fluty parts, they go all the way down. Anytime you find a mushroom and you're, like, interested in it, it's always good to look at the underside and see, does it have gills or spores or teeth? Especially if you can look at it, like, without disturbing it or knocking it over or whatever.
Right. And where would you suggest people look for chanterelles?
Doug fir forests, which is like
I wish we had some. I
I
don't know.
know. From time to time, I do see a Doug fir, out
Yeah.
and about. So, from the vibes perspective, I'm usually looking for a forest that has like a lot of soft stuff on the ground, lots of like needles and things like that. Like it should have like a nice dry kind of like top to the soil there. That's just what I grew up doing because I grew up hunting mushrooms in the Coast Range.
Right.
And they have like really thick canopies of the trees in the Coast Range. So everything is like really densely packed together. And you'll have lots of like leaves and like needles and stuff that haven't composted that make this like really thick duff that sits on top of the soil. And I usually am looking in places like that because I know that they'll be like drier and not like soggy and stuff. Sometimes by the time you see the chanterelle, it's already absorbed so much moisture from the ground around it that it's like soggy and gross.
Could you have like a surefire way of saying, hey, these are the chanterelles and these are the false chanterelles? And they're not deadly so much. They're just this mushroom is going to make most people feel really sick.
Yeah. So they have caps and they have gills, the false chanterelle and the jack-o'-lantern.
Hmm.
They don't have the same like fluting on the stem, right? And they have like actual gills that you could like pluck off with your fingertips. And there's a difference between the cap and the stem. I don't think they look anything alike.
Yeah. But for a newbie, especially the jack-o'-lantern, which is, by the way, the jack-o'-lantern is poisonous.
Yes.
Like that's the one that is like deadly. But they look so much like it, like to new people because they have the little flute and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say out like, hey guys, if you're out looking for chanterelles, please look up false chanterelles and look up jack-o'-lanterns and just make sure that they're not those. That is it.
You should always like go with somebody that knows what they're doing a couple times, whether you like pay to take a class or you pay a guide to take you out or you just like get your friend out. It's so much easier when you have somebody to kind of walk you through the process.
Hmm.
But yeah, most things are pretty like clearly distinctive. You can always do spore prints, which I think are fun too, especially if you like want to play around with things at home. You can bring home interesting specimens that you find that you like bag and set aside separately from the ones you're going to eat and
Yeah.
take pictures of them and try to identify them. There's like a lot that you can do beyond just like, I'm going to take this mushroom home and eat it.
Yeah, that's my bag. I love just bringing all the mushrooms homes and identifying them. They're super
Super
fun.
fun. Yeah.
So I know another mushroom that you think is pretty easy to find this time of year are the lobster mushrooms.
Yeah.
So where do you find them? How do you find them?
They're still in the Doug fir forests. They do
Okay.
grow other elsewhere, but like all the mushrooms that I'll mention kind of all grow side by side. You can all pick them together. Lobsters are great because they're really smelly. They're very distinctive. Nothing else look like a lobster. It doesn't have a look-alike. It smells like seafood and it's bright orange. The trick with them is sometimes they're still like covered up as they're growing, and you have to look for the little shrump, the little like disturbed hump in the ground.
Hmm.
But some years they're super prolific. If you find yourself learning in a really good mushroom year, which I've seen a lot of people pull the lobsters, you can come away with a lot of mushrooms very quickly.
Cool. Well, the third type of mushroom you thought would be an easy find was the hedgehog, which I hadn't actually really heard of. So tell me about it because you're just like,
Yeah.
you're saying it's plentiful.
They're not like the most commonest mushroom, but I think they're very distinctive. So they're like,
Hmm.
easy to distinguish from other mushrooms. They have kind of like a nuggety little shape. They're kind of like lumpy and weird. They're not, it's not like a regular round shape or anything like that. But they have teeth, which is like super cool and specific. Not that many mushrooms have those types of like pore structures underneath where the little teeth hang down. So that's kind of a fun, distinctive one. I found lots and lots of them last year. Again, in the old growth Doug fir forests in the national forest. And there was just these huge long veins of them that like went all the way along the hillside. And they were pretty tasty. They're a pretty good mushroom.
Yeah. Well, I just want to quickly say that the teeth, for those who are like, what? It doesn't look like human teeth. It looks more like if mushrooms had like hair, if that makes any sense. It
Yeah.
just, there's like these little mushroomy, almost little icicles on the bottom, which is very distinct.
Like cave formations to
Yeah.
me, like the stalactites or whatever they are.
For sure.
Yeah.
As opposed to gills or anything else. And just to me, that is very distinct because there's such few mushrooms that I've seen in our area that have that.
Yeah.
Well, what are some mushrooms that you'd recommend people just do not mess with? Like, don't even try it if you're new or, it's just not worth the risk.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't say like that anything is like particularly super risky. If something is of interest to you, you'll like make the space in your brain to learn about it,
Hmm.
I would say like don't waste your time trying to ID every mushroom in the forest, which like honestly, I there's something about that my brain dislikes. I want to know all the things, but just like leave the tiny guys alone that don't have very interesting characteristics, and just focus on things that are like bright colored and weird looking and have unique shapes and are going to be fun and easy to identify.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's take a quick break here. When we come back, let's talk about some tips on how to keep your forage even safer. Okay, I have the next 60 seconds to convince you to go check out Doer Jeans. You can time me. Are we ready? Okay, go. Doer makes stylish, bike-friendly clothes that are designed to keep you cool, comfortable, and looking good. They're pioneers of blending technical innovation with everyday clothing without it looking like boring athletic wear. Like, even if these clothes weren't made with Coolmax, which is supposed to regulate your body temp and wick moisture, you would want to wear them. They gave me a pair of jeans to try out, and y'all, they look good. And they're not harnessing the full power of the sun and directing it straight to my legs like most other jeans do when it's sunny and above 70 degrees. Doer is opening a new store right here in Portland on Northwest 23rd. And CityCast Portland listeners get 15% off their first order. You can either just mention the code CCPDX for your first in-store purchase or go online at shopdoer.com/CCPDX. That's shopduer.com/CCPDX. 60 seconds on the dot.
Hi, I'm Michael Ziviak, Chief Revenue Officer of CityCast. Why do most of us want to learn a new language? It's because we want to speak it out in the real world with real people. Babbel gets you there fast. My daughter's a senior in high school, and after she graduates, we're taking a father-daughter trip to Spain. I know, she's spoiled, but that's on me. I'll be honest, my Spanish right now is pretty much tops out at "Donde está la biblioteca?" But when we get there, I want to actually talk to people, order food, and really connect with the locals, not just stumble through the basics. That's why I'm starting with Babbel. Learning a language with Babbel is all about small steps, big wins, and progress you can actually track and feel. And with how busy things get here at CityCast, I love that Babbel's bite-sized, 10-minute lessons fit perfectly into my day, whether it's between meetings or while I'm having coffee in the morning. I'm really excited to start picking up real-world Spanish before our trip so we can experience Spain in a more meaningful way. Right now, Babbel has a special deal for our listeners. Get up to 55% off your subscription at babbel.com/citycast. That's BABBEL.com/citycast for up to 55% off. Rules and restrictions may apply. Gracias and adios.
So everyone listening and going out to forage edible mushrooms for the first time are going to be super safe. Like they're going to hopefully have a more experienced person to come along, like you said, a guidebook. Of course, they're going to triple check, maybe even check in with the Oregon Mycological Society for their free identification help, which, by the way, they do for free. If you just hit them up, they'll look at your mushrooms and go, yeah, you can eat them. But in the event that you did all this and you're still worried, what are your golden rules for making sure you don't accidentally eat something dangerous?
As somebody that teaches foraging, I like to offer the definition that foraging is just eating things that you already know. So if you're not sure, you're not ready, and that's okay, don't put it in your mouth.
Okay.
We have so many great resources for it. Like connecting with people online is a really good idea. There's probably like Facebook groups and stuff if you can get into that. Lots of people would love to tell you their opinion about mushrooms, but it's important to remember that like there's very few definitive official sources about anything. So just like don't take everything that other people tell you as 100% truth. Like I always kind of like to frame it in my mind like, well, Claudia said that she thinks this is, right? And like attach the piece of information I've been given to the person who gave it to me rather than just accepting like, oh, Claudia said it's a chanterelle. It must be a chanterelle and I'm going to eat it now. So
Yeah. Better safe than sorry is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect golden rule. Well, finally, I feel like mushroom culture has a huge amount of etiquette. For one, mushroom foragers are never going to give you their spots unless they bring you along and then you're then sworn to secrecy. Like, what are some quick do's or don'ts?
So first I would say like avoid over harvesting as much as possible. I like the 2 hands rule. If I can hold it in 2 hands, that's enough. There's lots of mushrooms in the woods. You don't need to take them all. And it's just easy to get carried away, So
Yeah.
don't try to bring a bunch of mushrooms back home for other people unless they've already told you they want them. Cleaning mushrooms and preparing them and stuff is like a big project. Not everybody actually wants that. So I would also say, like, it's cool if somebody wants to show you where they pick mushrooms, but what you really want to learn is how to find spots to look for mushrooms. You don't need someone else's spot. You need like an understanding of the environment that you're looking for so you can just go find your own spots. There's a lot of mushrooms in the woods. There's absolutely no excuse to be like weird and territorial about any of it. I wouldn't even say that I have spots. I just know what kind of forests I want to be in when I go looking for certain types of mushrooms, and then I just go there. The spot thing is super weird. People are really weird and greedy about mushrooms. Anything that has monetary value, people have found a way to ruin it when it comes to foraging. Which is super disappointing. So just like, don't be that guy, but also your foraging practice should be a reflection of your own values, and you should absolutely mind your business, keep your eyes on your own paper, and don't tell other people what to do.
Yeah, and basically what you're saying is that, a lot of mushroom foragers, they keep their spots very close to their chest. Same thing with like people who fish and stuff. Like they're just very like, these are my spots. I don't tell anybody. But I am also curious if there's a way to forage them. There's certain ways to forage certain plants where they're like, don't do this or else you like ruin the whole root system or this or that. Is there a special way to, pluck it or cut it or anything? Okay.
No.
So you can't hurt it if you're...
You can't hurt it and don't even engage in the cut versus pluck conversation. It's like the most tired foraging discourse of all time.
Okay.
You can just pull them out of the ground. Don't take them all. Leave some for the animals. We live in the Pacific Northwest and there are over 300 edible plant species. And then we have all of these different edible mushrooms. There's really no reason to get into a thing where you're like preserving a lot of foods around the year, unless that's really something that you're super passionate about. We live nearly at sea level. There are plants that are available for you to forage and add to your meals literally year round. So we don't need to start like doing these obsessive projects where you're like creating this, like a giant stash of mushrooms.
Yeah.
Get what you get in the season and then move on to the next season and be ready to like do a different thing.
Yeah. So to end this all, don't be greedy is what I'm
Don't be
hearing.
greedy.
Okay. Well, Norther, thank you so much for hanging out and giving us some pointers. I also just want to quickly say that you do need a permit if you are thinking of foraging more than a gallon. I just found this out. And part of me is just like, okay, a gallon of mushrooms. But if you are here, it's illegal. You need to get a permit for that. So just heads up on that.
In the state parks, they allow you to forage 1 pound per person per day of anything.
Hmm.
Which is kind of a super random rule, but I actually really like that idea because the things that weigh the most are typically the things that you should take the least of. But you could probably forage a pound of wild herbs from the forest, and that would be a tremendous bounty of
That's
stuff.
what I'm saying.
I don't know how you use it all. A pound is a lot.
Yeah. Well, thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Portland. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, share it with a friend or rate and leave us a good review. It really helps us out. And don't forget, you can support this show and get some great perks by becoming a CityCast neighbor. Just visit membership.citycast.fm for all the details. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more from around the city. Until then, see you with Slims.